children. You've yet to hear about our friend Mr. Spanks, you say. Well, let me tell you about the powerful, gorgeous, all but conquering male stripper, Mister Spanks. I shall tell you the story of Mister Spanks and his adventures in Drangleic.
A place where souls may mend your ailing mind. Once branded.
After having a frightful nightmare, Mr. Spanks woke up in a strange new land. He knew that this wasn't Canada anymore. Due to the lack of trees, the moose, it's moose, and the smell of maple syrup. It was after this thought of home, though, that he began to feel painful cramp from within. What was this? He asked himself. The 12 burritos? The 4 Happy Meals? Maybe the mixture of 2 tons of maple syrup and morning waffles. He knew that before he could even set out on this adventure, he had to leave his past behind. So he ran to the nearest place in hopes of a washroom. He buzzed right through the door.
What seems to be the ruckus?
And up the stairs he went, only to be disappointed with the lack of a toilet. There sitting before him was only a giant chest. It seemed that this house was toiletless. He told himself he would not soil someone's chest. There must have been another way. But there wasn't. So he opened the chest, and he left all of his past behind. Oh. Oh. Excuse me. And unfortunately, Mr. Spanks did not wash his hands or change out of his clothes. After his great release of his past, he continued inland. On his way, he passed some very funny-looking structures, grand trees that had been hollowed out for indoor living. He thought to himself, what a wondrous idea. A strip club inside a tree. And within that strip club, there would be a pole that reigned all the way from the top to the bottom. A glorious pole that he could ride down upon for all his fans and followers to see him in all his glory. Finally, after a day's travel in the woods, Mr. Spanks finally reached Majula, a rumored settlement where residents of Drangleic lived. For Mr. Spanks, this was a great opportunity to eat, rest up, and perhaps ask the locals where the king of strippers rested his fine body. Drangleic was a magical and thrilling land full of adventure, and Drangleic was home to a king who had previously carried the title of the Stripper King. His abs and hair and style was stuff of legends, and our bright, simple-minded Mr. Spanks was driven to become one of the true male strippers. So he set out to find this so-called Stripper King to learn his secrets, or in worst case scenario, duel him in a strip to the death. As Mr. Spanks entered town, he noticed a lady a hobo, and a blacksmith. Mr. Spanks decided that he would see the lady first. He bowed to the lady, as Mr. Spanks respected women above all other creatures. The lady spoke, and unfortunately for Mr. Spanks, she did not speak Canadian. The lady was a fiery redhead, with an esteemed posture of a true lady, skin as beautiful and pale as the evening snowfall in Canada. She had curves that could make any being succumb to her bidding, and he sensed that past her mysteriousness, she had a kindred spirit, that of the mighty beaver. Now, although his talk with her was short, he smiled and took his leave. He thought to himself, he shall call her Guinevere. Mr. Spanks then approached the blacksmith. He also could not speak Canadian.
I'm a blacksmith.
But this did not bother Mr. Spanks, as he knew that all blacksmiths, stripper or not,
Chop chop.
knew the hand gesture for "I need a weapon" and what it meant. The blacksmith nodded, and he had suggested going out east by pointing his finger towards the nearest castle. For the answers must lie there. Ah, it looks like it's about time for you youngsters to head home. Oh? You want to hear more? Well then, how about you leave a like, even possibly subscribe, and come back tomorrow for the next chapter of Mr. Spanks' adventures in Drangleic.